one of the biggest value adds that Lifetimely does is just make everything really easy to process and understand.
When I went to my bank on the first week of New Year's, my teller guy who I always talk to, his name's Boris, and he said, "What's your plan for 2024?" And I said, "Maximum profit from minimum customers." And he started laughing out loud so hard. It's an app that you and I have really found huge value in for our clients and with our clients.
Basically just the front end sales channel. He developed a strategy because in his own business he wasn't profitable with the strategy.
Well, it's clearly working wonders for our clients, and it's crazy to me how many agencies don't know about this at all.
Hey, Kyle, how are you, man?
I'm doing great. It's fun to be here.
Thank you for joining me on this edition of the Ecommerce Leader Podcast. So we're mixing it up a little bit. Michael, my normal co-host, is asked to take sort of a sabbatical, a leave from podcast land. And so you and I talked about it, of course, and thought, man, we don't want to stop this. This is good stuff. And so you've volunteered to step in. And so we're going to call this season 5 going forward. We'll sort of make a change. We'll probably have to do a new intro, I guess, song or whatever, the little jingle, and start doing podcasts together, you and I. So hopefully that sounds great to the audience as well. I know that you and I have had some good conversations about what we want to cover, the things that we're hoping to achieve and really lean into. And so hopefully that sounds all right to you. Yeah.
Sounds great. Yeah. I mean, if you were hoping that I had a British accent as well, I'm sorry to disappoint. My Cockney is terrible. So,
well, that's all right. You know some stuff about e-commerce, and that's the main thing.
That's the important thing.
Too good. Okay, so that's great, man. So I guess we could talk for a couple minutes just about what we hope to focus on with people, just for a refresher if you're new to the podcast or if you just haven't paid attention sort of to, Kyle's involvement in the past. Him and I are business partners. We run an agency we started together called OmniRocket. We do Shopify coaching and done-for-you services, including web management. We do email marketing. We do advertising and social media. And then we also, work with people on their Amazon accounts. And so, Kyle, that's sort of your domain more than mine, the Amazon stuff. But we work with a lot of clients and we see their troubles and trauma and drama, and we help them and we see the wins and sometimes the losses too. And so I think having the podcast conversation shaped around those topics, what's really happening in people's businesses, generally, I see, obviously not specific, but generally, will be a good grist for the mill and a good thing for us to focus on and share with the audience. And I think people will get a lot out of that. So I'm looking forward to it, man. What's your thought on how to shape the content?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing for me is it's based in real world application. Like, we're working with clients every single day, every single week, and we're seeing things that are working, and obviously we're seeing things that aren't working. And so being able to bring that to the podcast as a conversation, and oftentimes too, we end up noticing recurring themes that clients will have. And so if we're able to address some of those themes to help sort of chart the path forward for folks to listen to the podcast, then I think that would be a really great outcome. Hopefully stimulate some thinking, challenge some thinking, and encourage you, because being an entrepreneur, being in e-commerce is not the easiest road to take. And so if we can be an encouragement as well as an inspiration and kind of sharing what's working, I think that would be a cool outcome.
Yeah, totally right. And the exciting part about it is because you and I work together on, client accounts, we can really get specific in terms of, for example, the apps that we really love and lean into. Whereas, we might mention them in the past on prior episodes, but one of our thoughts going forward is that we can really nerd out over some of the apps. In fact, that's what we'll do today when we're going to talk about Lifetimely, which is an absolutely amazing app, and give people an understanding of what it's good for and why they should consider looking at it. And this is, with no no ulterior motive in mind. Many of the things that we'll talk about, we won't have affiliate links for or anything like that. It's just stuff we love. But if we do have an affiliate link for an app or something like that, we'll throw it in the show notes or whatever. But the point of it is try to elevate people's understanding of different tools that are out there and different apps available, services available, that kind of thing. Particularly on the Shopify, performance side, Shopify site side. So I'm really looking forward to just going deeper on that kind of thing. And hopefully our audience will really enjoy it as well. So with all that said, today's topic is Lifetimely. It's an app that you and I have really, really found huge value in for our clients and with our clients. And the app is very, very helpful to answer from some few specific questions. And so we're going to do a list here of 10 reasons Lifetimely is awesome. And I think everybody will get a lot out of it. And if you haven't heard of this app before, then this will be a particular interest. I think some of the pain points and the problems that we explain, and how Lifetimely answers those situations, it can probably be very helpful to you. And if you do know of Lifetimely, we might point out some features or functions that you're not familiar with, because it is expanding and enhancing its tool set all the time. So that's super cool. So you ready to jump into Lifetimely? And man, I was just thinking, I don't even remember when we got exposed to it. Do you remember how or why? Was there a client that turned us on to Lifetimely, or do you remember the origin of it?
Yeah, it was a client out of the UK, actually, who was kind of talking about it, about their site. I was kind of connecting with them, and then they're like, hey, check this out. And kind of looked at it and we're like, oh, this is actually really, really cool. We should dive into this more and encourage our clients to use it. And that's what we've been doing.
Yeah. The basic overview of the app itself what I would describe it as is an app that gives you business insights into the performance of not only your Shopify site, but also the ads, the ad platforms that you're using to send traffic to your site, and really gives you a very nice interface for understanding the performance of your business at that level. And so that's how I describe it.
For sure.
Yeah. So let's jump into it. So we've got a list of 10 great things that Lifetimely will help you with, or good, reasons it's awesome. You want to break down the first one?
Yeah, I'd love to. So reason number one, in no particular order of importance, but just as us putting down a list, it's tactical versus strategic decision making. And why that's important is oftentimes when we're talking with clients, they will have their P&L, right? And though they're basing a lot of their decision making on what they're doing on the P&L side, the problem with that is that the P&L is just too slow to make really tactical decisions in terms of how your campaigns are performing, and really pulling all that data clearly into one spot so you can see how your site is performing for advertising and how it all plays in, how your cost of goods get factored in. Because if you're just looking at it at the ad level, right? So maybe you're running Google ads and you're running meta ads on different platforms, you get ROAS numbers, right? But you really don't get sort of that full look of, your net revenue on the site minus your marketing, minus your cost of goods and whatever sort of other operational costs you have factored into that. Lifetimely does a good job of just pulling all that into a quick snapshot, and then really easily lets you see that over time and trend lines and see what's happening. So one of the biggest reasons for me is I love it is the fact that it's in real time. I can look at yesterday's data, I can look at a year ago's data, and I can look at it, quickly, as opposed to waiting maybe 30 days for your P&L to cook for the prior month, right? It's just too slow of a cycle for you to make quick enough decisions on.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I hadn't thought of it that way, but you're right. It is one of the underlying, I guess you could say, coaching foundational pieces that we work with people on, is like, what are the mechanics of your business in terms of the performance of your site? And the profit and loss statement is helpful in that regard, to your point, at the monthly, quarterly, annual basis. And there's a lot we can glean from that. But you're right. It is sort of a trailing indicator of what's happened. And the beautiful part about Lifetimely is it tells you so clearly how things are working. I love that. That's sort of a high level idea, the tactical versus strategic. I'll mention the second thing on our list here is it gives you very clear insight into the cost to acquire a customer. Now, if you've ever watched the Shark Tank for more than a few episodes, you know that the cost to acquire a customer, like that's one of the foundational questions they always ask. How much is it costing you to acquire a customer? And if the Shark Tank people, don't know those numbers, boy, it's awkward. And, even as coaches, when we talk to clients and we'll ask that question, what is the cost to acquire a customer for your business? If they stumble and bumble and fumble through that answer, then we're like, oh, let's mention Lifetimely and have them plug that in, so that they don't have to fumble and bumble and stumble through the question, so that they can know with a certainty, okay, in the last 30 days, here was my cost to acquire a customer, and that was different than the 30 days prior to that, and for the last 12 months on average, it's been this number. And of course, the cost to acquire a customer is central to scaling your business, because that's that sort of gives you a scorecard for how you're doing in terms of getting new visitors to your site that are buyers, new customers. So I love Lifetimely just for that. If that's all it did, then almost it would be like good enough,
For sure.
So I love that one. Any thoughts on the CAC, as people refer to it?
It's funny because like we talk to clients and we're like, are you running ads? Yes. How are those ads performing? I have no idea. And so
or not good enough.
Yeah, it's never good enough, right? And so then that conversation ultimately leads to, well, what does it take?
Mm-hmm.
What are you acquiring a customer for? What number does it need to be at? Or in some cases, clients are often surprised that number is actually performing really, really well for them. Mm-hmm. And so they look at it and they're like, oh, maybe it's not quite as bad as I thought. And this is actually pretty good, so there's
sort of the
levels of that.
Yeah, that's sort of the worst scenario, isn't it? Is if you actually have a good business, but you think it's bad, so you're not investing in it and you're kind of giving up on it. Like, wait, this isn't a bad business. You just got to look at the data, you got to be able to see the stuff. Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Cost to acquire a customer. That's the second reason. What do you got on the list here for the third one?
Yeah, the third one, which is probably sort of the corollary. So it's, you're understanding your cost to acquire a customer. And then the next question that we have with clients and walk through was, what is the value of that customer? Like, how much revenue are they going to bring in over time? And that's the lifetime value. And that's probably more of the secret sauce of Lifetimely, where it really started to pick up its momentum, I think, and where it leaned into, is that they do a good job of getting that data in place and making it really easy for you to navigate and manipulate. Now, there is some cohort data within Shopify when they kind of give you some of that as well, but Lifetimely goes a lot deeper. And on some of the higher plans, they actually have like predictive lifetime value. So they use some AI tools and stuff in their engine to kind of predict how your lifetime value is going to grow, and if you're making progress on that field. So it's important, because that CAC number is going to give you how much it's going to cost to acquire, but really the profits made on the back end. And so understanding the delta between those two, like how much does it cost for me to acquire that customer and what is that customer ultimately worth to me, really is the secret sauce of scaling your business and making it really profitable on the back end.
Yeah, totally right. And if you look at the lifetime value content in Lifetimely, what's nice is it lays it out in a very nice grid structure so that you have cohort analysis, and you can look basically what you're thinking about in terms of lifetime value of a customer is you're always thinking of time periods. And so what the question you're asking is, after 24 months, how much is this customer worth to me on average? If I acquired 100 customers in the month of January, after 24 months, what will them as a group be have spent on the site on average? And so that's kind of the way you look at it. Because of course, lifetime value is kind of constantly always, growing. So you kind of look at it in a snapshot of time. It's not, as if a customer starts with you and then you watch their account until they terminate.
Right.
That would be, I guess, the ultimate actual lifetime value numbers. But really, mostly you look at it in cohort and duration metrics. And it's very interesting. When we've been using this now across a lot of clients' websites, it's very, very interesting to see. One client will look at their lifetime and like, gosh, after 30 months, their average, customer is spending $7,000. And you look at another client's account and you're like, well, after 30 months, their average customers has spent $110.
Mm-hmm.
You're like, good Lord, that is such a huge, huge difference.
Right.
In terms of the enterprise value and in terms of, what you're spending to acquire them, and then, what they give back to you. So it's really interesting to see this at sort of a bird's eye view from site to site. And every business is different. Every business is going to have a different customer lifetime value, and you just have to figure it out and roll with the punches. It's a great help. And I think Lifetimely, it's probably came out of that specific feature, right? Lifetimely.
Yep. Yeah, for sure.
It's a good one. Yeah. Okay, great. Anything else on that one? Are we ready to go on to number 4?
No, it's an important number. So you got to know your CAC and you got to know your lifetime value of your customer. If you're going to do any advertising at any scale, you got to know those numbers. So this app really does a great job of capturing it quickly for you to make fast decisions.
Yeah. And if you're watching this on YouTube, I don't know, Kyle, if you want to share any screenshots of any of this stuff, but for those of you listening, there's obviously demos on Lifetimely website, so you can go check that out straight away. We ready to bounce to number 4 here? Yeah, let's go. Number 4 is customer buying journey maps. Buying journey maps. You could explain this one better than I can. So
no worries at all. So this is a really cool feature where Lifetimely will look at all of the orders across your Shopify store and give you a visual map of the customer buying journey. So they might have their first purchase was product number 1, and then it tells you what was their second purchase, what was their third purchase, and so on, and really sort of let you visually see how customers are engaging with you in terms of second and third order, and connected that lifetime value. But the biggest reason why that is really valuable to you is that it really lets you quickly identify, without jumping through a bunch of spreadsheets and CSV files, right, where you should be focusing your energy on upsells and cross sells within your marketing funnels, right? Because if you have product 1 that's doing a far better job of getting someone to buy again or second or third order from you, then it makes a ton of sense to lean into your upsell app, your cross sell app, or maybe some of your advertising dollars or your email marketing, sort of connecting that dots and actually doing it on purpose. Because a lot of the times these happen on accident, and you just kind of have this data sitting in your Shopify store, but you don't really have a good, clean way to see it visually and quickly. So this customer buying journey map really lets you quickly identify it and go, oh, wow, look at how many other product B that they're buying when people buy product A. We should actually just try to explicitly elevate that in our marketing.
I love it.
That's really, really cool and valuable.
Yep, totally love it. I love that one. You're right. And it's such a helpful thing. Now, is that the one, maybe I should have looked up this before I started this conversation, but is that the one that kind of tells you also by product level how things are going? 100%.
Yeah, you can also, one of the cool things about Lifetimely as well is it gives you product level breakdown in terms of sales velocity, like you're like 30-day sales velocity, 7-day sales velocity. You can see that data as well, which is super valuable, particularly if you had a question and like, well, which product inventory wise am I moving quicker or which is slower? And that data is in Lifetimely, and it's great.
So a pro tip is plug in Lifetimely, look to see the customer buying journey map. And if you have a key product, like a primary product, and then there's a second product that customers typically buy, install another app like a Bold Product Upsell, and just have that be available right through the checkout process, or Zipify, one-click upsell. You're basically just teeing up for the customer what, on average, they're going to get second, as a second purchase anyway, and that'll totally ramp up your average order value. So, love that. Sure. Okay, so that's the 4th idea here. The 5th idea is the time between orders. So Lifetimely will help you understand how much time it's taking for your customers to order from you a second time. And that gives you a huge set of insights into kind of how you should do your marketing. It also gives you a huge insight into the value of your business. Like, again, every Shopify site is different. If you sell mattresses, then, your customer is going to come back once every, I don't even know how many, 10 years or whatever it is. And if you sell whole milk that's unpasteurized, then your customers are coming back a lot more frequently. So this really helps understand that whole idea of the time between orders. Very helpful in terms of knowing what to tweak and that kind of thing. So what's your thought on that one?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of times we don't even look at that data, like as e-com entrepreneurs, not really thinking about that. You're just like, most of the time when we're talking with clients, the primary focus is on that first customer acquisition. It's all about how do we acquire new customers in the business, and that's an important piece of this. But really, where the profitability lies, and we talked about it with lifetime value, is when are they buying from you again? And is there any way for you to sort of shrink the time between that first purchase and that second purchase, so that you can then accelerate that lifetime value accumulation and really, improve your profitability? So it's really just a good insight to, well, how long does it take on average for, my customers to buy from me again? And then how can I increase that? Is there any marketing I can do? How are my email automations? Because you might realize that, well, maybe if I tighten up my email automations a little bit and talk them a little bit sooner than the average, maybe I can bring my average down over time and get them to buy from me at a quicker pace. So I think that's really where it comes into play in terms of a strategic level of thinking around it, is like, how does that impact some of the marketing that I'm doing, and can I make it smaller? Can I shrink that average over time?
Yeah, no, I love that. And there's a subtle art to it here, which is the idea for your Shopify site. It's sort of unspoken but important, is that you want to make maximum money from minimum people.
Exactly.
There was a book I bought one time that was called "Make Maximum Profit from Minimum Customers."
Right.
And it's the right idea. In fact, when I went to my bank on the first week of New Year's, my teller guy who I always talk to, his name's Boris, and he said, "What's your plan for 2024?" And I said, "Maximum profit from minimum customers." And he started laughing out loud so hard. He said, "That's a great one." So, but it's important because if you can make maximum money from minimum customers, what it means is the time for them to take a second order from you, to place a second order, is a crucial factor. And the reason you want maximum profit from minimum customers is because that's the most efficient kind of business you can be in. You don't want one customer, obviously, unless it's the federal government, maybe. But you get the idea. The fewer the customers who spend more money, the better off you are. Okay, so that's the fifth idea. Yeah, on our list. What's the sixth idea? Break it down for us.
Yeah, so the sixth idea, which is a new feature that Lifetime Leaders rolled into their app, is benchmarks. So what they're doing is, obviously, as more people will use their platform, they align your business model, your niche, and then try to find as many people within those spaces as possible. So we have clients that might have, say, 400 people within their cohort. There's some clients that have like 50. And then what they're doing is essentially giving you data around how well your profit, like your total sales are, and they bring them into quartiles, right? So you have bottom 25%. Top 50, bottom 50%, top 25%. And they're looking at total sales. They're looking at your contribution margin, gross margin, and then your new customer average order value, all of that, your customer acquisition costs. They're kind of benchmarking all of that data. So you can kind of get a sense of, well, how am I performing sort of against my peers? And am I doing a great job, or is there a lot of room for improvement? So it's kind of just helpful, because it is one of the questions we do get asked quite a bit too from clients. It's like, well, here's my data. Is it good? Like, what are there benchmarks for it? And sometimes you're like, well, there's sort of general average benchmarks. But now when you have this app installed and it gets a little data cooking, you'd be like, well, let's just go actually look and see very specific benchmarks against people exactly in your business model and niche.
I love this one because, we do get asked that question a lot. And a lot of times when we work with coaching clients, we'll look at their P&L and look at the prior year information and ask basic questions like, how much money did you spend on all your advertising as a percentage of your top line sales, right? And we have our point of view on what that should be as a percentage. But that's just our opinion, but we can back it up with data that we can show clients. But the way the benchmarking tool works in Lifetime is really a graphic visualization tool, and it just speaks for itself. There's no justifying it or explaining it even. It's there, and you can see, oh, I'm doing better than almost all my peer group for cost of acquire a customer. Well, there you go. Now I know. So it's very, very helpful. I would also imagine that data would be very helpful if you were going to sell your Shopify site. And you could say, hey, in my peer group, I'm compared to 500 other Shopify sites. According to Lifetimely, I'm in the top percentile or quartile for these metrics or whatever. That'd probably be pretty handy in terms of trying to sell your site. So, yeah. Okay, so any others on benchmarks?
It's just great data to have. You kind of, sometimes you feel like, oh, I'm doing terrible. And then you look at it and you're like, oh, actually, I'm doing pretty good. And so there's areas to lean into and really have some encouragement around. And in the areas in which you are lagging behind, then do some areas to focus to kind of double down and sort of get to work on. And so I think it's just a handy tool.
Yeah, totally right. Okay, the seventh one is more of a commentary about Lifetimely itself, and that's that it's a simple and clean user interface. And this is a good point, or thing good to point out, is that if you're familiar with Google Analytics, even for like the customer buying trends or whatever, I think there's some visualization stuff in Google Analytics. It's not nearly as good as Lifetimely. Lifetimely is like well done user interface, and it's really it just lays it out graphically in such a clean and nice way. It makes data easy to understand and not confusing.
And that is
what's your thought on that? You've seen a ton of these tools and back-end analytics tools.
And even Google Analytics, it's like just trying to navigate around to find the data that you want in there. You almost have to be an expert to even get access to it. So I think one of the biggest value adds that Lifetimely does is just make everything really easy to process and understand looking at the data. And that is great because it allows you to make good decisions on that data at speed. Like you don't have to sit there and crunch a bunch of spreadsheets or really like pull data from multiple sources. The tool is doing all of that for you. It's pulling from your Shopify store. It's pulling from your ad platforms and giving you all of that data. And then you don't have to create pivot tables and all that kind of crazy stuff in Excel. You just say, oh, it's right there. It's just right there, easy for me to consume. So I think that's a huge value in of itself because it saves you a ton of time, makes it really easy. You can then make really clean and clear decisions off of that data, and you're off to the races. You don't have to spend more time than is necessary trying to figure that stuff out.
Yeah, totally right. Okay, we got a couple more here. So number 8 is it does a very nice job presenting your blended return on ad spend, or ROAS, as it's referred to. Now, the only criticism I would have of Lifetimely, which frequently our clients also mention, is it does a blended return on ad spend. It doesn't really break it out for you based on the ad platform you're using. It doesn't say here's your Meta return on ad spend, here's your Google AdWords return on ad spend, and then here's your blended. And I wish it did do that, and so maybe they'll improve that in the future. But it is helpful to have a blended number, if nothing else, to understand. Okay, across the advertising efforts that I'm doing, what does it look like in terms of my result on my spend? So, any thoughts on that blended versus broken apart ad spend number?
There are some like dashboards that you can go in and create to get to that data, but it's not explicit. It'd be nice if it was just a little nice drop down that gave you static data explicitly. But the other fun thing about Lifetime is they have a feature request tab that's pretty prominent. You just click on
we need to hit it up.
Hey, please make this change, and then see if we can get them to actually make a tweak and improvement. But I do agree with you. It's nice not to have to log in directly to an ad platform to pull that data. Since they already have it, why not just visually present it and let you see it? So because sometimes too, it's like people see their blended ROAS, meaning it's going to be their return on ad spend. That's their net sales divided by their total marketing spend. And they go, well, that's just way too high. Well, you have to keep in mind that you have email marketing flowing, you have your organic search flowing, you have direct, people just typing in the URL going to your site. So all of that is reflected in your total sales and not necessarily just the revenue that's generated by your advertising directly, right? And so that being a fundamental difference. But that's important to understand because you're trying to look at your business holistically. And one of the other cool things that is broken down in the tool is the like KPI percentages. So that gives you a really clear percentage of your gross margin, your net margin, your refund percentage, your cost of goods, and your marketing costs as a percentage of sales. As a snapshot that lets am I really out of whack, or am I where I want to be from a KPI perspective? So it is great to be able to see that and understand, well, how much am I overspending or am I underspending on my marketing right now?
Okay, so I'm going to do the 9th and the 10th ones together since they're kind of interwoven ideas. And the first one would be Lifetimely allows you to become a better investor. And the 10th idea here is Lifetimely allows you to have a better handle on your numbers. And obviously those two things go together. They're sort of 30,000 foot view ideas. Having a better handle on your numbers in your business allows you to be a better capital allocator, where you can say, okay, because all of us at the end of the day have a business, and then let's say, so we've got, $1,000 in the bank, and we're like, well, should I put that in my retirement account and, invest that into my 401k for future? Or, am I better off investing in this business because I'm getting a good return on anything I put into it? And do I know that? Like, do I know that my business is a good investment of my money, let alone my time? And so Lifetimely really helps with both of those things, because at the end of the day, that's what you're really trying to strive for, is asking the hard question, which is, am I investing in an asset here that I either created or purchased that is a good investment? And Lifetime ultimately helps you, I think, get after that really nicely. So what's your thought on those last two ideas?
It's the fundamental question. At the end of the day, being a business owner, your job is to use your capital as efficiently as possible. And the only way you can do that is if you have good data, right? And to be able to use and get that data and act on it in the appropriate time. That's why it goes back to sort of that initial first one, being tactical versus strategic thinking. Yes, you need strategic insight, quarterly planning, yearly planning, monthly P&Ls, but you also need to know what's happening this week in your business. And so I think Lifetimely does a great job of that, kind of giving you the zoomed in, but also the big picture trend line in a really clear way, at least at the net level. I mean, you're looking at it at the platform level, right? It's just Shopify. It's not going to factor in necessarily a bunch of other costs in your business unless you plug it into Lifetimely to calculate, right? Like there's options for you to add in other cost structures if you're trying to capture for that. But yeah, this is your job. Your job is to grow your business, grow your brand, and to deploy your capital as efficiently as possible. So 100%, you need the tools to do that. And I really think Lifetimely is one of them.
Yeah, I totally agree. So hopefully this has inspired you to check out Lifetimely if you haven't ever heard of it before, and check it out in the App Store, get it downloaded. If you're looking at our show notes or under our YouTube channel, for this video description or something like that, we'll try to put a link there. But ultimately, it's one of the best tools we've found for this type of business inquiry, like how you're doing in your numbers. There are some other tools we're going to drill into in the future that are similar, but have some different nuance to them. But the idea with this one is that it's so good that it's just a no-brainer for any Shopify store owner who really wants to understand their numbers. So I would highly recommend you check it out. It'll take a little bit of time to set up. You do have to click a few buttons, enter a few things, make sure it's capturing your expenses right, and your ad platforms are connected, that kind of thing. But I wouldn't say it's onerous. How long do you think it would take to rig it all up when you first install it, Kyle?
I mean, part of it will depend on how well you're sort of managing your Shopify store as well, right? So if you're adding in your cost of goods into Shopify, it pulls all that data in. So that's not an issue. It takes a couple minutes to connect your Google Ads account, like integrate with that, with your Meta account. You're plugging in all those, anything related to advertising as integration. And then other than that, that's about it. For some people, for some clients, they have sort of a flat percentage that they know from their business, and they're like, I don't have it all set up, so I'm just kind of applying a flat 15% margin or 20% margin, and so they're using that approach to it because it's close enough and it gets them where they need to go. But yeah, the setup time isn't very, very difficult at all. The other thing we might want to mention too is just from a price standpoint, what does it cost you, right? So they do offer a free plan that gives you sort of the last 30-day look at your data, right? That you can run for $30, but 30 days worth of data, and it's free, but it's really sort of an introductory type thing, right? Where you can kind of see stuff that's in there. And then the next level up would be a $34 a month plan. And that's up to 500 orders a month. Pulls in all your data costs from across your advertising platforms, gives you all the historical stuff. The most popular is sort of their $75 a month plan that gives about 15 orders a month. 1,500, sorry. 1,500 orders a month is sort of like what that looks like. But that has your CAC, customer acquisition cost payback calculator feature built in. So you kind of clearly visually see like when are you, getting your revenue back that you put into your customer acquisition cost. And then they have their high unlimited order plan that has all of the bells and whistles and future customer lifetime value prediction and stuff. And that goes at $149. So it adds sort of a pricing plan no matter where you're at, which is kind of nice. And you can definitely try it for free to get started. So it's kind of cool.
Love it. All right, friends. Well, hopefully this conversation has been helpful today. And Kyle, I'm glad you're being my co-pilot on the podcast going forward here. And for those of you who are missing Michael Veazey already, we get it. He's awesome. Go hit his website up. Amazing FBA, and say hello. But we really appreciate you listening and supporting the podcast. Like it or subscribe to it wherever you can. That would be very helpful to us. And of course, if we can be of help to you in your business, then we'd love to have you reach out. OmniRocket.com is our website. There is a free consultation form you can hit and get 30 minutes with us. Happy to talk about your Shopify site, how our services work, and how we can be of help to you in scaling up your business. So with that said, Kyle, thank you so much. Really appreciate it. And I'll wrap it there.
Awesome. It's great connecting. Thanks, guys.